First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai Bahashim Rokakudash. Yahweh is who this world ignorantly calls God. Yahweh Shai is who this world ignorantly calls Jesus. Bahashim means in the name, Rakah means spirit, and Kodash means holy. And that's all in the Paleo Hebrew. I also want to give double honors to the elder bishops and apostles of Great Millstone that taught me this truth. Today's video, I wanted to go into how greatness requires discipline. Okay, and ultimately, the greatness that the elect are going to be seeking after is salvation. So let's read this in Matthew chapter 10 and verse 22. It says, "And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake, but he that endureth to the end shall be saved." Okay, and that's as simple as it gets, is that he that endures unto the end is going to be saved. So what does that mean? That means that every single day you are supposed to be trying to become more righteous. Every single day you are supposed to fight the flesh and bear your cross. Right? You are supposed to fight temptation. You are supposed to walk that straight and narrow path. And to be able to do that, that requires discipline. Okay, so let's first go into what is the definition of discipline. Discipline, the practice of training people to obey rules or a code of behavior using punishment to correct disobedience. Right, so going into I disciplined him, and that's more dealing with, correction. This is the one I want. Train oneself to do something in a controlled and habitual way. Okay, that's a better definition. Let's go into the etymology online. Get a better definition. Discipline, penitential chastisement, punishment for the sake of correction. Alright, so this is dealing with correction. Okay. Disciple. It's not really giving me the definition I want. But ultimately, I'll tell you the definition. Discipline is doing something every single day, no matter how you feel. Okay? And that is what Yahweh Bashim Hawashai requires. Okay? There's a reason why he referred to his believers, as soldiers. Let's get that. In Second Timothy chapter 2, and I'll start at verse 2. It says, let's start at verse 1. It says, "Thou therefore, my son, be strong in the grace that is in Hamashiach Yahushai, and the things that thou hast heard of me among many witnesses. The same commit thou to faithful men, who shall be able to teach others also. Thou therefore endure hardness as a good soldier of Yahweh Shah Mashiach." Right? So we are commanded to endure hardness. Right? Those moments when things get hard, trials and tribulations, things are not going your way, you're catching hell, all types of inconveniences are happening to you. Rejoice, because that is the way it is supposed to be. Right? Your life is not supposed to be easy, and life for anybody is not easy. Okay, life is not easy. That's something that I'm realizing recently. As I'm maturing. As the years are coming upon me. I'm still young, 23 years old, but ultimately, walking this path almost by myself. So I'm realizing slowly that life is not easy, and majority of life is going to be headaches, heartaches, and just struggle. And that is the way the Most High has intended it, is that everybody is going to struggle. Now the difference between a winner and a loser is a loser is going to complain when the struggle comes. When the struggle comes and things get hard, he's going to quit. He's going to make excuses as to not push harder. He's going to give up. But a winner, no matter what happens to him, he's always going to keep pushing forward. Whenever he gets down, as it says, a righteous man falleth 7 times, but getteth back up again. But the wicked fall into mischief. Right? So you're going to fall. You're going to get weak. But as long as every single day you show up, you do what you have to do, that is what the Lord requires, and that is what ultimately is going to get you on a chariot. Right? That is the definition of enduring hardness. Okay? Let's see what that word endure means in the etymon. Endure, to undergo or suffer, right? Especially without breaking, right? So, hey, we've been put on this earth to suffer, and especially here in Babylon the Great, where they push all types of wicked and unjust laws. Talking about, yeah, you work your ass off, but when that paycheck comes, we're taking 35%. How about that? Straight usury. But it's okay. It's okay. Let Esau do what he have to do, because in the kingdom, we gonna break their backs. We gonna break their backs, and there's nothing they're gonna be able to do it. Let's get that scripture, just in case, hey, you don't believe me. Yahweh Shai saying it, the Messiah saying it. Revelation chapter 2, and I'll start at verse 26. It says, "And he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations." Right, that's those that overcome the flesh. You're not going to overcome it fully, but you're going to work on it. Right, those that overcome, that make it to the end, that endure, that are disciplined every single day, to those, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai is going to give power over the nations. Right, that's talking about the elect first and foremost. It says, "He shall rule them with a rod of iron, as the vessels of a potter shall they be broken to shivers, even as I have received of my Father." Right, so, hey, we're going to be given the blessing, the power to put these nations in captivity and to beat them to shivers. Okay, they're going to be broken like a pot. So, hey, if you didn't believe me, there it is. Now, let's get the scripture in Proverbs chapter 16. In verse 32, it says, "He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh the city." And this is a scripture that is very powerful, because we live in a world where majority of men and women are emotional, fully emotional. A perfect example of that is what people call the YNs, the young niggas, these black Negroes, in the hoods acting all crazy. One thing about them is that they're known, for crashing out. That's the term that they labeled it, is, oh, he's going to crash out, which means that he's about to do something so emotional. So he's about to do something so illogical, because he's so emotional, that it is ultimately going to be, it's just going to be an emotional reaction, something not logical. Let's see if we can get the definition of that. What is the definition of crashing out? Crashing out has multiple definitions, but primarily to losing control due to emotional overload, leading to sudden, often angry or distraught outbursts, or impulsive and potentially self-destructive behaviors. Right? So, ultimately, as it says, losing control of your spirit. And there's a scripture that lines up with this in Proverbs chapter 25 and verse 28. "He that hath no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down and without walls." Right? Ultimately, is this chaos. A city that is broken down and without walls, no defense. Right? When I think about that, I think of chaos. Right? I think about people running everywhere, and that essentially is your spirit if you don't got it on lock. Okay, one day you're going to be doing this, running this way, the other day you're going to be thinking this and doing that. You have no consistency. And that is what Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah is not dealing with. He's not dealing with no crash outs. Okay, he's dealing with men and women out there that are 100% locked in and know what they believe in. Are 100%, they know what they're dealing with. They know their identity, they know their purpose, they understand why they're here on earth. And every single day, they execute it the best they can. So Proverbs 16:32, he that is slow to anger is better than the mighty. Right? That's a giant virtue that, me myself I'm working on is being slow to anger. Okay, not letting everything get to you. Because if you let everything get to you, ultimately, whatever you let get to you, you are giving power to that object, right? It's like, that bully at school. That bully picks on, the one kid, and if that kid, revolts, gets mad, you're giving the bully exactly what he wants. But if, you look at that bully and you don't really react, you just disregard him, you don't give him that emotional stimulation, reaction that he wants, ultimately, he's going to leave you alone. Same thing as if, you're getting beat up or you're getting robbed. A better example, you're getting robbed. People when, they rob another person, they want the other people to scream, and leave me alone, da da da, But if you just, give no reaction at all, you just hand him your wallet calmly, he's gonna look at you, sideways, because you're not giving him the power, the power that he wanted, that, fear from you. You're not giving it to him, and he might even giving you your wallet back because he's like, nah, I feel bad now at this point. So whatever you react to, you give the power over to. It says, and he that ruleth his spirit, than he that taketh the city. Right? So being able to rule your spirit is greater than overtaking a city. And I put the scripture in the chat GBT, and I said, explain that last part. It says, taking a city in ancient times was considered one of the greatest military achievements. It required army strength, strategy, and courage. Conquerors were seen as mighty men of valor. But Solomon is saying that an even greater victory is not over an enemy city, but over yourself. To rule your spirit means having self-control over your anger, emotions, impulses, and desires. So the proverb that teaches that mastery of self is a higher achievement than mastery of others. A man who can control his own temper, lust, fear, or pride shows more strength than a general who conquers lands, because inner battles are often harder to win than external ones. And that is so powerful, what it just said right there, because it's 100% true. And ultimately, what it boils down to is the flesh over the spirit, right? Everything that it talks about there, being tempted, lust, fear, pride, that is the flesh. But if you have, if you feed into the spirit, okay, you fast, you pray, you read, okay, you're feeding the spirit, you're exercising the spirit is going to be strong enough to subdue the flesh. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to feel these emotions. You're going to feel them. There are going to be days where you don't feel like, hey, making a video. You don't feel like reading. You don't feel like praying. You got saying on you. You don't feel like working out. You don't feel like running. You don't feel like doing shit. But those are the days where it matters. Okay? Those are the days where you got to tell yourself, doesn't matter how I feel, I'm still going to get it done. Because that is a sweet savor in the mouth of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. It's seeing somebody that, hey, no matter what you throw on him, he's dedicated. He's moving forward. Right? A perfect example of that is Job. Job is a perfect example because Job lost it all. Job had his woman switch on him. Job had his woman tell him, just curse the Most High and die. You're a fool. And Job, all his children, the Most High took out, or he gave Satan the authority to take him out. Job had boils all over his body. Job lost his land, okay, his animals. Job lost his friends. Okay, he lost his image. Everybody looked down on him. But throughout all that, it says that Job sinned not with his lips. Okay, Job didn't curse the Most High. He didn't doubt in Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Actually, he did the opposite. He said, you think we're going to receive good in the hands of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai and we ain't going to receive bad? He understood that there's a duality. And that in life, the Most High going to put you through he going to put you through the ringer. But that don't mean he's not dealing with you. It just means that he's trying to show you something. He's trying to teach you a lesson. And that's ultimately what life is, we are here to learn. Okay, we are here to grow. And We're gonna be in this, constant cycle of falling and getting up and falling and getting back up until a Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai makes us perfect. Those immortal bodies. So, as it says in Esdras, this is the condition of the battle. And you gotta lock in because greater evils than what we have seen are going to overcome this world. We have to put off the mortal thoughts. You have to put off the weak nature. And every single day work on our mentality because soon, hey, you're not gonna be worried about your rent. You're not gonna be worried about your car, if it broke down. You're gonna be worried about survival. And in that day, we're gonna see whose house is truly built. We're gonna see who built their house upon sand or who built their house upon stone, upon that strong foundation, that rock, that cornerstone being Yahweh Shai. So, hey, while the gates of mercy are open, make sure that every single day you're putting your best foot forward. Every single day you're working hard because soon everything that you see materially is going to be stripped away. Soon everything you have that you think is, of this world, everything of this world, you're not going to have access to unless you take the chip. So, get that spirit on point, build it, build it, build it, because that's the only thing that really matters, is your spiritual control and your faith in Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. So hopefully it was edifying. With that, I'm going to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai Ba'Shem Rakakwadash, and double honors to the elder bishops and apostles of Great Millstone that taught me this truth. Shalom to you, Shalom.